Grand Theft Auto 5, a review by Sam and A.T. Gonzalez.
Grand Theft Auto. It's one of the video game industry's most successful and celebrated game franchises. With its humble origins as a bird's-eye view PC driving game, the series eventually evolved into a free-roaming third-person action game extravaganza. Though the games have different storylines, characters, and locations, the premise has remained true since 1997. Players control a 2-bit thug in the pursuit of a life of riches, gradually working their way up in the criminal underworld.
The Grand Theft Auto series is noted for its high production values, free roaming modes, cinematic storytelling, and its controversial content. Sex, violence, drugs, profanity, racial stereotypes, these games have it all, and much, much more.
The Grand Theft Auto games wear their mature ratings almost like a badge of honor. Grand Theft Auto 3's portrayal of indiscriminate violence was considered so gritty and realistic at the time that it inspired nationwide moral panic.
Which is hilarious because video games have only become more violent since 2001.
Be it game design or content, Rockstar North, the developer for the series, has no qualms about continuously pushing the envelope. Wow, that makes me feel really goddamn uncomfortable.
Why does that make you feel uncomfortable? The girl's a slut. For most of our lives, this series flew under the radar of the Gonzalez brothers.
Yeah, well, my parents didn't really approve of M-rated games until I was 14. Just to decide my first one was Twin Snakes. Now, I'm not totally out of the loop, and I've played the other games at my friends' houses, but I never played it for a really long period of time. Well, under our radar no more. Here's Grand Theft Auto 5. Taking place in the fictitious city of Los Santos, a crime saga unfolds in front of us.
At the beginning of the game, we are introduced to some upstanding gentlemen indulging in a little bit of criminal activity.
Let's go! Shut up! Shut the fuck up!
We soon learn that the initial player character for this segment is Michael, the central figure of the game. After a bad bank job, he went into a witness protection program, faked his death, and relocated from the snowy north to Los Santos. Now living under the name of Michael DeSanta, he was allowed to keep his fortune and lives in a nice house in an upscale neighborhood.
Unfortunately, his kids are brats.
Fucking homo, you're dead! Dad! He said I had a massive... Jimmy called me a bitch!
His bitchy wife is cheating on him, and he can't find work. When he's not at home watching TV, he goes to a pricey therapist who doesn't give a shit about his problems.
I gotta tell you, I ain't too sure this shit is working for me.
Well, a sense of overriding futility is a vital part of the process. Embrace it.
After leaving an unproductive therapy session, Michael encounters a young man named Franklin Clinton. Franklin is an ambitious young thug who works as a repo man for a shady car dealer.
Insurance papers say they have a locked garage, so you'll need to gain access from inside the house.
Man, it's never easy with you, is it, Simmy?
And then there's Trevor. Trevor is a goddamn lunatic.
All three men are unhappy with their lives and are seeking criminal opportunities to further themselves. After they cross paths, they decide to team up for a series of heists.
I gotta make some dough. You're back in the game? I guess.
I really enjoyed the writing, the script, the acting in this game. It all feels very natural.
Man, I still don't get the score. What's the fucking plan?
What I like about Michael and Franklin in particular is that despite their status as semi-villains, they're somewhat likable.
That kid might be a fucking idiot, but you are a fraudulent scumbag piece of shit.
Both of them act not quite like normal people, but they're very grounded. Almost as if they're somewhat aware of the fact that they're in a video game.
Man, you can't be for real.
I look like a fucking joke to you.
Man, fuck my life, man. Fuck it.
The Grand Theft Auto series indulges in a pastiche of American media for its characters and storylines. This game makes me think a lot of Michael Mann films, particularly his 1995 movie Heat. In that movie, Robert De Niro played a career criminal who was the mastermind of a tightly knit gang of thieves. He organized every operation very carefully, very meticulously, and he was preparing for one last big score. The scenes in Grand Theft Auto V, when Michael stakes out the jewelry store for surveillance, and then him and his crew rob it while dressed up in motorcycle gear, remind me of scenes from Heat.
What the hell? Let's go get on the fucking floor!
Gee, nice work on the crowd. You're worth whatever we're paying you, buddy. Yeah.
I gotta be frank. Initially, this game didn't make a good impression on me or Sam. It's not like we thought the game was terrible, it's just there didn't seem to be a whole lot that made it stand out from other modern games. What I had a bone to pick with initially was that some of the earlier missions felt way too restrictive and way too rigid.
The story is very engaging and interesting, but the parameters for passing or failing a mission are sometimes bullshit. You can die and get a game over for all kinds of silly reasons.
Some of the missions are just a little bit too linear for their own good. It's like you're on rails, and if you go off rails slightly, the game punishes you. It's ridiculous. I'm glad we pulled through though, because we enjoy the game a lot. The genius of this game, and by extension the series, is that it can be enjoyed on a completionist level and on a casual level too. The story is entertaining enough, but if you're getting tired of it, feel free to screw around the city.
This style of play is often called sandbox mode. It's the best part of the entire game. It's like playing with toy cars and cops and robbers at the same time, but it's digital.
Make sure the police don't bust you though. When you die, the game takes a huge chunk of your money. Just like in real life, you need money to buy weapons and clothes and do things around the city.
Walk this way, sexy.
You can obtain money by committing criminal acts, or you can do it legitimately by investing in stocks and real estate.
What pulled me into the game was the environmental design. The city of Los Santos is the heart and soul of the game. There's always something to do. There are story missions, side missions, and random occurrences that make Los Santos feel like a living, breathing city.
The package contains a map of Los Santos, alluding to the sheer scope of the game.
It's one big-ass city.
There's so much detail put into everything. Streets have their own individual names, there are a bunch of fictional products, and the game lists what car you're currently driving.
And speaking of cars, you can use a vehicle to navigate throughout the city.
The driving in this game isn't striving to be realistic, say like Gran Turismo.
That hurt.
But at the same time, it's no Mario Kart.
It strikes a good balance between those two driving game mentalities. You can obtain vehicles by participating in the titular Grand Theft Auto.
But don't think the vehicles you can hijack are limited to cars and trucks. You can also command speedboats, biplanes, and helicopters. The more I think about it, this game's like Jackie Chan Adventures.
Sorry, I'll bring it back later, thank you! The world of Grand Theft Auto V is gargantuan. I was told that this game was huge, and after playing it a little, I thought I began to understand the size of this game. But then when I realized that the airspace and the ocean was part of the equation, I was like, damn, this game is huge! Even with the 20 or so hours me and Sam put into this one file, it feels like we've barely scratched the surface of this game.
You access your weapons with the weapon wheel. I think the idea sounds very simple and easy, in theory. Sadly, it just doesn't work as well as it should. First of all, it's awkward to move the cursor on the wheel. You have to move the stick in a clockwise position. It just feels so wrong. On top of that, the thing sometimes has a mind of its own, and other times it wouldn't respond to my weapon change. The same wheel is used to change the radio stations, and it's just as awkward and frustrating.
The actual shooting is just fine though. To the lower left corner of the screen is the GPS. The GPS helps you navigate throughout the city. There's also a tool for marking locations so you can drive to them later. The HUD is pretty good in general, but I don't care for how tiny the life and special abilities bar are. I don't get why they have to be so small, you know? While recording for this video, we ran into a few glitches. Some of them were pretty amusing, like this one time... See, Sam likes to play as Michael in his undies.
You really can't play any other way. When Michael gets drugged and hallucinates himself doing some groovy psychedelic underwear flying, I was like, yeah, this is the best game ever.
Because of Sam's underwear fascination, a glitch occurred during one of the main missions. At the start of a real-time cutscene, a cup attached to Michael's hand, which led us to this scenario.
What a dick.
Everybody stand back! I have a coffee cup and I'm not afraid to use it!
While the coffee gun was amusing, we experienced a few glitches that were total game breakers. One time I was doing a boring mission where Franklin controls a tow truck, and I was trying to tow the car back into the parking lot, and a scripted event didn't occur. The parking door is supposed to detect the car and open, but it wouldn't do so. I wasn't able to enter the parking lot, which made it impossible to complete the mission. This went on forever, and I hated it, and it's all Tanya's fault. The other game-breaking glitch we experienced was during one of the story missions where Michael needs to take out a group of armed enemies. A few seconds into the mission, I was getting shot at. I was looking all over to see what was shooting at me, and it looked like I was being shot by the wall. The enemy was invisible and impossible to kill.
Yeah, that whole murderous wall glitch. Yeah, that was pretty bad. Even though we had a few technical issues with this game, and we found some of the mission segments to be a bit restrictive, it was hard for us to put it down to pause and take notes or record footage for this review. We've been having way too much fun playing it. With a massive scope, an engaging storyline, and all sorts of things to keep the player coming back for more, Grand Theft Auto V is an extraordinary piece of interactive entertainment. We see ourselves playing it for years to come. We can't recommend it enough.
Software Agents Corporation does not endorse or recommend the real-life application of the totally freaking badass crimes that the player can commit in Grand Theft Auto V.